Hey everybody, welcome to the Art of Guitar. It just hit me today that I don't think I've ever done an amp shootout before on my channel, which is crazy because I've been around for like over a decade. But what I'm going to do today is going to be a little bit different because it's not just going to be which amp is the best. It's actually going to be which amp gets the gig that I have coming up this weekend. And there's a lot of stipulations surrounding it. You know, there's a lot of reasons why I would go with a certain size amp or, you know, a certain quality of an amp. It's just a lot of details that you have to really consider before choosing the right amp for the right gig. So I'll tell you all about the details after we just do the sound shootout first. And then I'll talk about, you know, the differences in weight and wattage and why I would prefer certain amps over other ones. So let's just do this real quick. It's a Heart tribute show that I'm playing this weekend. So I'm going to try to play the same thing for each amp because there's 5 amps total. And what I'll do is I'll just play little bits and pieces of Heart songs just to avoid copyright issues. And I'll start off with totally clean. Then I'll add some effects to the clean. Then I'll just do like a dry half dirty sound, followed by a full dirty sound, followed by like a lead with delay and boost pedal. And that should get us most of the sounds I'm going to be using for this show. gig I'm playing is actually kind of a smaller outdoor type thing. And so it's kind of a hassle to move amps from your car basically to this bar to the backyard area. So I really was hoping to use a smaller amp for this particular show. So I needed the biggest sound, the best sound with the lightest weight. So right away that kind of, narrows down the playing field, but I was willing to bring a bigger amp if the sound difference was that massive. And by the way, I'm just miking one speaker with a Shure 57 because that's what they do a lot at these gigs. And so it's not any special miking technique. I'm just slapping the microphone in front of one speaker for all the different amps. So the orange sounds big when you're in the room with it, but it's a bit boxy coming through the microphone. And even though it only weighs 30 pounds, I'm not going to go with it for this particular show. The amp that surprised me the most was the Fender Custom 68 Princeton Reverb. The orange amp has a 10-inch creamback speaker, by the way, and this Fender has a 10-inch speaker as well, but it's a 1030. And I really like the way it sounded. And here's the good news. It's the same weight as the orange amp. So it's 30 pounds. It sounds really great. And I think it holds up really well for the hard stuff. The Vox AC30 has two 12-inch speakers. So that sucker weighs 70 pounds. And that's what I brought to the gig last year. And it was a hassle because it has no wheels. You have to carry it from your car to the sidewalk, go park, get your stuff in the place. You have to store it in the shed and then move it. It was just such a headache for a 70-pound amp. And so I was pretty much moving it all by myself. And it's not the heaviest thing in the world, but it definitely weighs you down when you have a pedal board to bring and two guitars. The power in it is really great. When you play it on stage, it has tons of headroom. And that's something the orange didn't really have. I kind of had to top it out to get the biggest sound out of it. And the orange is the 15-watt one. The Princeton's actually a 12-watt amp, but it holds its own against the orange. So those things are kind of neck and neck when it comes to weight and, power. But I think the Fender just edges it out as far as sound goes. And then the other Fender is a Deluxe Reverb from 1979. It's one of my vintage amps that I really love. And the problem with it is it doesn't really have the fullest sound on stage. It can get loud, but it doesn't have any bottom body to it as much as I want. And surprisingly, the Fender Princeton does have that bottom end. So the Fender 79 Deluxe is 22 watts and it weighs about 42 pounds. So it's pretty reasonable when it comes to carrying it around, but it just doesn't have the bigness that I need for a live show, especially an outdoor show. And finally, the Bassman 100 head is just so massive as far as sound goes. When I was playing it here in my studio, I could feel the walls kind of vibrate. It's got such a bigness to it. While putting it through a 4x12 Marshall 1960s vintage cabinet is also boosting it, obviously, but that head just sounds incredible. The head itself weighs 30 pounds, so it's as much as the smaller amps, and the cabinet's about 85 pounds, but it has wheels, so it doesn't really count. Now, because this gig is kind of awkward as far as, transporting amps, I don't want to bring my half stack to this one. I use it for all my other, Heart Tribute Band shows because it's so massive and it sounds great. But for this one, I just can't see rolling it across the grass to get to the stage, So like I keep saying, surprisingly, the Princeton 68 wins out. I bought that last year because I was having this little show with my friend. It was just a duo gig. And I thought I need something smaller that's a tube amp that still sounds big. And this amp is not cheap, by the way. It was like $1,500 for it looks basically like a tiny practice amp. The funny part is it's a late addition to this video. I was actually just going to choose out of the 4 amps. And my poor Princeton's just sitting in the corner. And I'm like, maybe I should include that one too. I just didn't think it was going to hold up to the other amps. I didn't think it was going to be as big. But I guess that's the reason why it has a hefty price tag, because it does pack a lot of power and punch for such a small amp with a 10-inch speaker. So by the way, you guys, this is not a paid advertisement. None of these companies are paying me a cent to talk about them. So now I need your opinion on, like I said, the one you thought sounded the best and which one you'd bring to a gig like I described. I will do a follow-up, or at least I'll put up on my social media how it went, and just to see if it held up through the entire show. So make sure to be on my social medias if you can, Instagram and Facebook, Just the Art of Guitar. And I guess we'll see you there or at the next video. Okay, everyone, thank you for watching. This was a lot of fun to set up and to experiment. And I think I'll do more of these in the future because that was a lot of fun. Okay, we'll see ya. Bye-bye.